Hello. Okay, so now we're going to look at creating simple aspects of a game using P5.js. So I'm in the online editor for this. First of all, what we need to do is add a background, and we need two objects. So one main character and another object that we want to basically use the keyboard arrows to move the character and then detect a collision. So we're going to use the distance function within P5.js. So first of all, just remembering inside a canvas on P5.js, we have our canvas. Let's say we do a 600 by 400 pixel size canvas, remembering that that top left is a coordinate of 0. So if we're talking about the x values, over here is going to be 600, 0. Over here is going to be our x coordinate's going to be 0, and our y position is going to be 400 in the positive region. Kind of opposite to math, we're going down is going to be still positives. And then this point here would be 600, 400. So if you think about when we have a character coming up, let's say starting here, and then we may have another object here. And then basically we want to see the distance between them. So for that, we use a function already defined, which in P5.js, which is essentially taking the hypotenuse of the x coordinates and the y coordinates. So using Pythagoras. We don't need to know the rules behind it because we can essentially just use that distance function within there. Okay, let's go into our online editor. So first of all, I'm just going to pause it while you add in your pictures. Best way to do this is to put it in, if you're going to have lots of images and lots of resources, you might want to put it inside a folder. So you might want to call this assets. So if I add this folder, you'll see that folder within there. When I click on that folder, I can then add my files to it. Now, the best way is to actually make sure your file has got an appropriate name, like main character.png or anything like that. Don't try to change the name there because it will not link to the file name. So just name your files accordingly, then drag and drop them in there. You'll see as you drop them in that, so I can get my screen to the side, there we go. So my main character, for example, and as it loads up, it fills that. And notice I never typed in a file name, and that grey bar filled up, so that's now in there. You can see in the navigation. So again, I can add another file. I'm going to add my background. Wait for that grey bar to go. And I'm going to have my main character as my enemy as a ghost. Okay, so grey bars are filled, so I can just close that now and just make sure they're in there. See how I gave them appropriate names so that when I call those files, it'll be easy. Okay, so now back in my sketch, I need to declare some variables and set up my background images. So I'm going to have a variable for my background image, just call it BG image. I'm going to have a main character image, which is going to be my ghost, and then I'm going to have that child image. Now, there are two things that need to be tracked for location. So the main character, which is the ghost, and the child. So I need X positions for them. So I can call it X position for my main character, Y pos. And I might just put those in my main character positions. And then I need variables for my child. So I might go xpos child, y pos child. So my ghost is chasing a child. And I'm going to create a variable for distance because I want to find out what the distance is between them. Okay, so canvas, we're going to set a 600 by 400 canvas, and now I need to load, I'm going to load my background image. So I called it BG image equals, and I'm going to use the load image function. And now this is where I need to set up so it reads, so it's in an assets folder, and then within the assets folder it's called background ghost thing. So I need to write this exactly as it is, .jpg. And I need to do the same for my main character. So I called it main character, equals load image. Okay, so I've effectively not even done anything yet apart from just preload them in my setup function. Okay, so I've declared the variables for their position, but I actually need to give them a starting value. So I'm going to set my main character's starting position at 50 on the x coordinate, and let's go 300 on the y coordinate. Okay, the x position of the child, I might want to set to a random position. So to do a random function, I want to set the minimum and the maximum. So my x-axis goes from 0 to 600. So if I set the lower from 0 to 600, it's my random function. If I just want integers, I'm going to put int around that, open, close the brackets. So same for y position of the child character. This time my y-axis goes from 0 to 400. So somewhere in there. Okay. Now in my draw function, I'm going to set the background as my background image that I defined. Okay, and then I'm also going to draw my main character to the screen. So image, so I've called my image main character, and its parameters are, so you could, what I declared it as main char, x position, the y position, which I've set to be 50 and 300, and then I need to give it a width and height. So let's put the width and height as about 40. So it's the image name, variable name, the x position, y position, the width and height as my parameters. Okay, so I need to do the same for the child. Okay, width and height, let's say 40, 60. Okay. So I can just see the edge of my child over there. So the random values are going based on a rectangle taking the coordinates of an image to the top left. So kind of just within my width. And my main character here was a predefined location. So my ghost image should always be there. If I refresh, that child image should randomly be in a different location. So just check that random location is over there. So if I don't want them off this screen, I can change that random value to just slightly less, 550 and 350 or something like that. Okay, so now we want to get our character moving. So still in our draw function, to get a character moving, we can use if condition, if else condition, basically branching to go if the right button's pressed, move the X position to the right, and so on. So I'm going to pause it here and then I'll write that code and then you'll see the finished code. Okay, so here is the code for each of the key events. So if key is down, right arrow is pressed, move the X position plus 10. You can just write XPOS plus equals 10 to be more concise, but okay, left minus 10 pixels, up we want a minus 10, and down we want a plus 10 to the Y position. And each of these has an open close curly bracket around if conditions have smooth brackets for the condition. So if I run this, we then have my ghost. Just make sure you always click into the space so it's recognizing the keyboards over here. My ghost is moving, but does nothing when it hits the character and can go outside the screen. So let's look at doing the distance function. So in the draw function, I'm going to say, we defined the distance variable before. So I'm going to say distance equals, now dist is the distance function defined in P5JS. And we take 4 parameters after it. You take the X and Y position of one character and the XY position of the other character. So for mine, they're all variables. So for the main character, it's these two. And for the child character, it's XPOS child and YPOS child. Now, I just want to print the distance, which will print it to the console below. Try to make sure the console is viewing. So if I run this now, see how it's bringing up those displays down in the console area. So as you can see, as they get close, that distance is getting lower. So 10, and then it's in the 200s. To get rid of the to make it integer, I just go int, open, close brackets, because it doesn't really matter about the decimal values. So I've got whole numbers now. Now it's going to recognize the top left-hand corner of each of them touching, so can't quite get close, but I can start to see if it's around 20, it means they're overlapping. So let's go with around that and go if the distance is less than 20, then what we want to happen. So let's say we're going to print that there's a collision. And then later we can work on doing something else, like a game over screen would be appropriate. Okay, let's just test. Oops, what did I do there? I didn't close the curly bracket. Okay, so see it's printed down there, collision, and it's less than 20, collision, collision. Okay, and then we would do a game over. Okay, that's it.